What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Reals People and Real Estate Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brooke Jones, aka the Moniel Agent.
I am Tyra Nicole. Unfortunately, our other podcast member, Nicole, is not here, but we do have Miss Gogo. She's with Team Gogo and eXp Realty with us today, so welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
So, we want to start off by asking you a little bit about Little Gogo. So, tell us a little bit about you as a child and, kind of like your upbringing. Maybe some people don't know some things about you.
Oh, that's funny, little Gogo. My mom used to say that she wished that there was an off button somewhere because I wouldn't shut up. I just talked and talked and talked.
Really?
Also, because of my mouth, she used to say that, oh, child, your mouth is going to get you in trouble, right? But I feel like it actually got me to where I'm at.
Okay.
It served me. And don't get me wrong, I did put my foot in my mouth quite often.
Okay.
And I probably always will, because I have my opinion about things, right? But that, and then also I got thrown out of kindergarten.
You got what? I'm sorry.
Thrown out of kindergarten.
Okay.
Why did you get thrown out of kindergarten?
Because my dad came to pick me up and I was outside while everybody was inside and I had to wait for him to come pick me up, right? And he's like, what happened? Why are you out here? So my parents always told me we had a coffee table. That you're not allowed to sit on the coffee table to watch TV. You have to sit on the couch, right? Because if you sit on the coffee table, then you're going to have warts on your butt, right?
Okay.
So the teacher was sitting on the teacher's desk with one leg up. You know how they do the one leg up, read a book? And I raised my hand and I was like, excuse me, you have to get off of there because you're going to have warts in your butt.
That's so funny.
And so you got kicked out of
So
kindergarten?
I got kicked out. My parents had to come and pick me up.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of people might not know where you're from. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you're from and how it was there?
Yeah, so my real name is actually Gyöngyvér Batki, not Gogo Batki, but nobody can pronounce Gyöngyvér or my nickname Gyögyő, so everybody calls me Gogo.
Okay.
I am Hungarian by nationality, but to confuse you guys, I'm actually from Transylvania, Romania. So I speak Hungarian as my native language, I speak Romanian as my second language, and then I speak English.
Okay, so 3 different languages.
3 languages, yeah.
And when did you come over to the United States? What age were you?
So I was 21 in 2003. That will tell you how old I am. And I came by myself. I borrowed $200 and I said I'm going to America for the American dream. And I figured if it doesn't work out, I always know where Romania is, right? I can just head back home. And it just happened to work out.
So that was like a dream of yours growing up, just to come to America?
So Romania was, to answer your question, yes.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like a real dream, like, oh, one day I'm going to America, but just more like in the back of my mind, right? So Romania was communism until 1989. I was 8 years old when communism ended. And my dad went and brought home a color TV, which we didn't have before, a VCR player. And he came home with 2 VCRs by Eddie Murphy, 48 Hours. And I just thought that I saw him. First of all, I'd never seen a black person before.
Really?
Didn't know they existed because when you live in communism, it's like you live in a shoebox with the lid on, right? They control the Western news, they control what actually gets to enter into the country, what you can watch, what you can read, right? So it's like doesn't exist, like it's very controlled what they feed to you, right? And so when I saw him on TV, he just seemed so happy. He just seemed to me like he was the happiest and the funniest human being I've ever seen, right? And I was like, I remember as an 8-year-old, that was my recollection of like, I'm going to wherever that person is.
Yeah.
I thought he was happy because of where he was at versus where I was at. I wasn't happy, right? It was communism, I didn't know he was in America, right? I had no idea what that even was, but that was like my first recollection of I'm going to America, I'm going to where he's at.
Yeah.
And then not until, fast forward, I was 21 years old when I came, so some time passed, right? But when you have your goals, the universe will conspire in your favor,
For sure.
right, to make it happen. It took some time for the universe to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
But I came to the U.S. by myself in 2003.
Wow.
Okay. And so is that still one of your favorite movies?
Yes, and one day I need to give a hug to that man. So if you know anybody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows Eddie Murphy, you let me know.
Well, you never know.
I know, I can't wait. I know I'm going to give that man a hug one day. He doesn't know he's the reason I'm here, and I'm building my American dream, but hopefully one time, one way, somehow he hears something that allows me to get to know him.
Well, that's good to know. besides that you're a big fan of Eddie Murphy, what is something that you would say no one knows about you?
Oh gosh.
I know you're like an open book, but
I am. My husband always threatens me. I can't believe I'm putting this out there. My husband always threatens me and says, "I'm gonna tell the world you pick your nose." I
that's what they
hate
don't know about you.
crusties in my nose. I don't eat it though, so it's all good.
okay.
Um,
As long as you don't
that's
eat it.
That's disgusting. But I cannot take it. I cannot take it when there's crusties in my nose. So as soon as I am not in public and I get into a car, you know it. There's like.
You always have to check. You have a small nose too. I feel like I have a pretty small nose, so you always have to check. Make sure.
I can't take it.
I
So
don't
there
see
you know.
why it's a problem though. Like if it's something in your nose, you should be able to get it out.
I know, right? It doesn't belong there. It's
Just
gotta
wash your
go.
hands or put some hand sanitizer on after.
So I just shared something super gross.
So, can you tell us about your first days here when you landed in America? Like, where did you live? What did you do? Were you scared? Like, how were you feeling in that time?
So I was super excited. I had no idea what to expect, right? I've never been here. Didn't know anybody who's been here, so I had no idea what to expect. I thought I spoke English until I arrived in New York. So I was at JFK Airport in New York, and I asked this airport worker, huge, tall, black guy, a question, and I had no idea what he responded, right? And I said, "English, please," and he said, "I'm speaking it." And I was like, whoa, like if
Wow.
you're speaking English and I don't know what I'm speaking, right? So it was really hard. I had no idea slang. They don't teach you slang. First of all, I learned proper English, which
Okay.
was British English. I learned how do you do, not how are you. I learned water versus water, right? So, and I barely spoke English. Like
Yeah.
I spoke like the foundation so I can get lost in an airport, kind of, right? Also, I've never seen a full fridge. So I remember so I came as an au pair, a living nanny.
Okay.
And so when I got to my host parents' house and they had a full fridge, I remember, first of all, double door fridge. I never had a double
So
door
what was
fridge.
it like? Like a mini one
No,
that
it
you
was-
guys had?
No, we had a regular fridge. It's just not normal. Usually in
was-
Europe, you buy the food that you're going to cook that day,
Uh-huh.
right?
heard that.
Or you're going to
Oh.
go out to the garden. Like most importantly, like my parents, they have a garden in the backyard,
Okay.
right? So they'll just go out there, they got whatever, or they can. Canning
Okay.
is huge, right? So it's not like we didn't have food. We had food. I just never had excess food.
Yeah.
I never had strawberries and cheesecake and a soup and cold cuts and cheeses and pickles.
Okay.
And, you
So a
know,
refrigerator
condiments
full of
and-
food.
Yes,
Yeah.
refrigerator full of food. I didn't have that. And then, so that was very different. How you guys cook was very different. So being an au pair, I had to take care of the kids, right? And they asked me to cook peas one night with mac and cheese and peas. Well, we make peas with, like, I caramelize onions and it's Hungarian paprika, and you know, you cook that, then you add the peas, and then you do like a sauce and stuff, and they just wanted to throw it in the microwave with some butter and salt and pepper, and I was like, well, you guys cook in the microwave? Like, I never cooked in, I don't know.
So
how
there's
to
no
Welcome to
microwaves
America.
there?
yeah, no, I don't I mean, we have microwaves, but I even today I don't microwave anything.
Yeah.
I believe it's very, very bad for your health.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like those kind of things. But then one of the hardest things that I still struggle with today, and I've been here for 20 years, is learning slang. Right. So my husband's American, and I would ask him all the time. I'm like, oh, what does that mean? Like, you guys use words from movies, words from songs, right? So it's like, what was that? What is that Top Gun thing? Goose? Talk to me, Goose. Right?
Yeah.
I had no idea that it comes from Top Gun. So I was watching Top Gun and I'm like, oh my gosh, that sentence comes from Top Gun. I'm like, I was just using it as
Yeah.
a sentence, right? Because I heard other people use it. But I would ask my husband all the time, like, what does that mean, right? Like when you use this, like, what does talk to me, Goose mean? Right?
I don't even
I would
know
assume like
myself.
talk to me pilot, maybe. I don't even know, honestly.
You know what I mean? So my husband would say most of the time, you just need to know when to use it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, but if I don't know what it means,
Yeah.
how would I know when to use it?
Right.
Right? And so slang in the American language, it's really hard.
Yeah.
Like, I remember trying to spell gonna on the phone, right? And I was like, I'm gonna, and I'm like, why can I not? Why spell check keep correcting it, right? And Dwayne looks at me, he goes, that's not an actual word. I'm like, what do you mean it's not an actual word? We use it all the time.
That's funny.
Right?
I never thought about that.
Or things like, one of my favorite is when you say in English to, talk someone off the ledge.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, which side? Because there's a short side back to the bridge, and there's a deep side, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
Which side am I talking you off for?
Yeah.
Right? Like, so when you're a foreigner, you understand things differently because you didn't just
Right.
were born into the language, right?
Right.
So it was really hard for me at first to like, not at first. At first it was really hard because I didn't understand half the things you guys were saying. But even today, 20 years in, I still learn things
Same.
that I had no idea what it meant before.
Yeah, that's understandable because I never even thought about that. Now I can understand how you can actually offend someone sometimes with the things you say. Is that something you've ever done?
No, you
like,
can never offend me.
no, I
in
mean,
order
have
to
you ever
offend-
offended someone?
Oh.
Like,
On accident.
Oh,
and you didn't
never.
realize?
Never. Probably, gosh, a million times, right? I don't even like that word. In my opinion, people need to like get the stick out of their asses.
Yeah, I feel
right?
the same way.
And don't
yeah.
give that much power to somebody else. The way I look at it is, you can't offend me because I don't care about your opinion. Right?
Yeah.
I like to say all the time, I'll start caring about your opinion as soon as I can deposit it into my bank account. So if
That's
people
true.
realize that it doesn't matter what anybody says or what anybody thinks, when you know who you are at the core, you could say whatever you want about me. You can't offend me.
I feel that way too. Yeah.
So I would say you're like definitely a hustler, like a go-getter. You have your mind set on something and you get it. So did you kind of face any difficulties when you came here to America? I know you
my
kind
life
of
is just a walk in the park. It's called Jurassic Park.
yeah. No, I know you wanted to be successful right off the bat probably, and then you had like all of these kind of obstacles you had to face being a foreigner. And what was that like, just being frustrated, not being able to get to that finish line that you seen for yourself when you came here to America?
I never looked at it that way.
No?
No, I look at everything that God has given me, like my accent. I think it's a positive.
Yeah.
I think it's different, and people
Yeah.
are like, "Oh, hold on a minute, what did she say? Did she say like, you know what I mean?" So, same with my looks. Like people make fun of me for, but I bought these guys in case you wanna know. But I don't feel like having tits makes me dumb. Right? Where
Right.
some people think that, like,
Yeah.
there's a half an hour speech about me on stage today, right? But I'm like, hold on a minute, let me surprise you with my brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I never looked at anything that. Yesterday, somebody asked me, is like, if you could go back, what would you change? Nothing, not a single thing, because I would not be who I am today if I
Yeah.
didn't go through those life lessons, right? So I never look at anything as a downside. I look at it as this is what God gave me. But I also know that if God gives you the idea, as I shared on stage today, He gave it to you because you're the best person to make it a reality. So when
Yeah.
you know that God created you, and if that idea crosses your mind, that's because God knows that you already have the skills for it. The question is, do you have the balls to take action?
Yeah.
You never think twice.
I
Right?
agree.
I don't overthink and analyze an idea or opportunity. I just jump, and I like to say, build a plane on the way down.
Yeah.
Right? So I want everybody to know that no matter what so-said downside you have, or that you feel like it might be a downside to you, you can actually turn around and make it your upside. You can use it for your benefit. We all have life happening to us sometimes, right? And we have two options. You can be a victim or a victor. It's your
That's good
choice.
advice. That's great advice. So I know this was kind of like a little pop-up thing that we did with you here, so we won't be too long, but I do have one other question.
Sure.
What would you tell your younger self? What would you tell young little Gogo? What advice
Okay.
would you say?
I think we all go through that. Am I enough? Sometimes feeling like an imposter syndrome, right? Of like, who do I think I am to go up on stage and deliver, right? So I think if you learn early on that you are enough,
Yeah.
that God created you and God doesn't make mistakes and you're perfect the way you are, right? That's probably what I would. If I knew that when I was 8 years old, God only knows where I would be today.
Yeah. I like that advice.
All
Well,
right. Well, that kind of wraps up the
yeah.
podcast. We wanted to keep it nice and short, but thank you for coming on the podcast, Gogo.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so
And
much
that's
for
a wrap
having me.
for us, guys, for today. Check us next week. I think we'll be
Yeah.
having Michelle.
Yeah,
Saylor.
stay tuned for next week. We'll have Michelle Sayward on the podcast. And yeah, peace.
Sorry, guys. I got
Bye.
excited over there. I saw someone. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you, girl.